Right, good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate everybody tuning in for our monthly town hall meeting. I know it's been a while since we've had one of these, so I'm excited to be back and be able to talk to y'all and for y'all to see me. I wish I could see y'all. Unfortunately, we backtracked a little bit as far as state requirements and back down to 10 people in a room versus 25. So unfortunately, it may be less of seeing y'all for a short amount of time until things get better, but it was nice to attend a couple of committee meetings recently, and then some later this week. We'll sit through 2 sessions and still get to see the same amount of people, just in 2 different sessions. So I do look forward to those times to see y'all and reconnect. But again, we had to reevaluate the way we do things here in group gatherings from recent mandates from the state and the governor. So the good thing is we've done it before. We knew what to do, so we just kind of went back in place. So hopefully it won't last forever, but we do need to do that as long as it is in place. So like I've always said, if I don't have a town hall meeting, I'll send out any memos or anything that I feel is important for y'all to know. There's a lot of things that happen, so everything doesn't get out, but I try to get out everything that feels important. So with that, I have a lot to go over today, and so we'll have a recap memo that will be out either tomorrow or Friday, depending on how quickly we can get it composed and how quickly we can get it printed and then posted online for everybody. So again, it will be Friday at the latest that you'll have it. So, but in the meantime, we'll dive into everything we have. Again, I got a long agenda. So the first thing I want to start off with some positive news is the COVID vaccine. We continue to hear really good news about the progress of that. I think you guys do too. There's a couple of companies that are really making a lot of headway. I think there's one up to 94, 95% efficiency. So that's very encouraging. I think I've told everybody that we signed a contract with Walgreens to administer the COVID vaccines once they're available. Walgreens is going to partner with our pharmacy that supplies all of the medications for our health center, which is called Medipac Pharmacy. They're out of Winston-Salem. So the goal is that they will get the vaccines from Walgreens, and then they will be on site to administer the vaccines. But backup plan is that somebody from Walgreens or whoever will actually come on site and they'll administer them. We sign with them ultimately, but Medipac's hopefully going to take it over. But if they don't have the manpower or somehow Medipac doesn't get the amount of doses that they hope that they would get or to cover all of their buildings that they serve, that we're for sure on Walgreens' list to do that. Each of y'all are on that first batch of vaccines that will be available. The first batch perhaps by the end of the year, maybe a few weeks to a month, maybe the first of the year, but we're hearing it is on track. Any frontline workers and anybody in the retirement community, including independent living residents, to my knowledge, will have first crack at that. So I wanted everybody to go ahead and start thinking about that, start doing your research on that, and really consider having the vaccine. Obviously, I can't mandate that for y'all, but I would hope that most of y'all would take that. I know y'all have seen many more pandemics or terrible health things in the past than I have. I don't know when polio was eradicated or when that was, but I know that I think that was a vaccine that really pretty much got rid of that. I don't know many people. My next door neighbor had polio, but that's the only person I've ever really known. A couple of other people that had it, but I don't know how that happened in the past, but I do hope that most people will consider taking the vaccine. It's the only proven way I think that we're going to get rid of that. Obviously, I'm open to taking it and do all we can to make that happen. But just start thinking about that. Start doing your homework. Start doing your research. You've got to decide if you want to do it or not. But we'll keep you updated on when that rolls out and what happens with that and when it's available. But I would assume most of y'all would probably be interested. I know we'll have a good participation in flu shots. So we'll see. So any questions? I can't give you any advice on yay or nay, but just do your research and hopefully I strongly encourage y'all to take it if you feel like it's best for you. All right, so talking about vaccines, we'll jump into the health center. I think everyone knows that we've seen some increases in our numbers in the past few weeks, and as obviously we've seen an increase in our county and our state and the country and the world that the virus is worse than it's ever been. It's each day in North Carolina last week they're setting record days of new cases, new hospitalizations. So again, I not to make light of anything, but I don't think this is a surprise in the least when you see these numbers and you hear these numbers, how we directly correlate that. Been saying that for 9 months. It's true to this day. You see that. And just remember, we're not the only ones that are seeing that. So again, it goes along with everything you're seeing and you're hearing. So we have had a rough few weeks. There's no doubt about that. I regret that our numbers have went up terribly. That's the last thing we wanted. We were doing so very good and had no cases. And when this second surge or spike kind of hit everywhere, it hit us as well. I mean, it did, and it's terrible. And I feel awful about it. But I can honestly hang my head up and tell y'all confidently that we have done everything 100% to the T that we could possibly do. We have been mandated since day one to do certain things, and then in addition to things that we've implemented here. So as bad as I feel about the virus getting into the health center and everything it's caused, I am at peace in my heart and the confidence in everything that we've done as a staff, that I know that we've done all we can, and I hope that y'all see that as well. Everything we've done since day one. Some of the things that we've done, just to let y'all know, we followed all the protocols to the T required by the state and by the local government. And that includes, stopping visitations and things of that nature. But extra things we've done that we've talked about before, just to let you know early on, just to remind everybody, early on we did mass testing that we paid for. $40,000 to do mass testing, and the money doesn't have anything to do with it, but just that's an early on proactive thing that we did before it was mandated. We stopped window visits during the first wave of COVID. We got a lot of pushback from some of the residents and family members, but we didn't want to take people out of their rooms and take them down hallways and down elevators and out to window visits, and they just cross-contaminate each other with staff. So early on, we stopped window visits during the first wave. We didn't allow any outdoor visits until we were required to do so. We've had a dedicated full-time nurse to do testing only. So we've not hired, but we've taken a nurse from the floor, and her full-time job is to test residents and staff every week. So that's something extra we've done. We've limited the capacity of each room in the health center before we did that anywhere else on campus. That was something that came up to help prevent the spread of the virus within the health center. So that was break rooms, common rooms, mainly for staff. So we did that early on. We created a separate break room for the staff working in the isolation units. We created a separate entrance. We implemented hazard pay since day one. Any employee that's taking care of a resident that's COVID positive, they're getting extra pay for that. All the healthcare workers are now wearing KN95 masks. They've been doing that for a couple of weeks now. And we suspended all window visits and all outdoor visits, even though we technically could offer those. We could not offer indoor visits. I think everybody remembers our outbreak status, but technically we can still offer outdoor visits and window visits, but we have stopped those because the cases are too high. I don't think it's very good right now to be able to, again, as we stop the window visits the first wave, take residents down to a scheduled window to have a visit when we're having certain activity staff take them down. And again, it's just going through the building, going down the elevator, using activity staff. Activity staff goes and works with other residents and CNAs, and then they intermingle. It's just way too much. So we've stopped window visits again. We've stopped outdoor visits again. Again, it takes a lot of time and effort, and the time and effort's not the part, but it's the commingling of residents and staff during that whole process that we've decided not to do the outdoor visits until the cases come down, and I think that's very important for us to do. Another thing we've done on here I didn't mention was, we stopped with home care, having people work in independent living and in the health center. We had to stop that to where people can only work in independent or only work in health center. They can't cross over. We stopped that early on. We started it back when the cases went down because there were people needing more care, and so we wanted to offer it to them, but now we've had to stop that. So again, we've seen our cases rise just like everyone else has. We saw the cases rise when we saw the second wave and when we started visitations. I have no idea if that has anything to do with it, but it's ironic. As soon as we started the indoor visitations, which we had to, and I was all for, by the way, from the state, and the outdoor visitations, that's when we saw it pop up. It could be a coincidence. It may not be. But I'm just saying that we did see it along when we allowed visitation. And the state allowed the visitation to start when the numbers were low in Wake County and in the state and everywhere else. And I thought that was an amazing thing to do. But perhaps it was a little too soon. I would have agreed with them, and I was all for the visits, but maybe that has some correlation or maybe not. But I did kind of notice that. There's a couple of interesting facts I've been reading just to hear about things. You kind of put in perspective that 40% of the deaths related to COVID have been in nursing homes across the country. So 40% of the deaths have been in nursing homes, and only 1% of the population is made up by nursing home residents. So that is a huge, huge number to hear of 40% of the deaths from COVID from 1% of our population. That just shows that in a congregate care setting like a skilled nursing area where there's hands-on constant care every day, that it is so easily to spread. Y'all have done absolutely amazing to have 0 cases here in 9 months, and there's 485 of y'all. Unbelievably amazing. I'm beyond thrilled, and y'all have done a fantastic job. I don't think the health center's done I think the health center's done a fantastic job as well, except y'all don't have somebody coming into your house 24/7, 365. You don't have a housekeeper that's got to come in there every day. You don't have a nurse that's got to give you medicine. You don't have a nurse that's got to bathe you, that's got to change you, got to feed you, got to do everything for you. And that's the difference of in a congregate hands-on setting to where the cases spread so fast versus an independent living. So those numbers don't surprise me. It's just ironic to see that. And again, it's happening everywhere. So I just wanted to just point those things out. The chart should be up today. I know there's been a delay in that. That's a manpower issue. It takes a lot of time to get this small little chart out. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but there's 14 reports that go into creating this chart. There's 14 reports that we have to do and send to different agencies and organizations and health departments and portals and testing sites. So this is just a snapshot of all that. So again, this is a manpower issue. We'll get back on track with it, but you've got to bear with us. If you've seen the chart, we do have currently right now 29 residents that do have COVID right now in the health center. The good news with that is 11 are able to come off by this Friday. I'm not sure if they will, but their time will be up. We keep them on the isolation unit as long as we feel they need to be. So even if it's after 14 days, if they're still showing symptoms or they're still weak, we will still keep them on there. But we have 11 expected to come off Friday. And we have 13 expected to come off a week from now. So 24 out of the 29 will be off by next Wednesday. We hope that everybody hope that holds strong and we don't add any cases and everybody stays stable. But that's where we're at right now. So again, you can see time plays a big factor in all of this. Time can be good, it can be bad, but all you can do at this point is just see how many cases you have, see when they come off, and that's kind of where we're at. So again, 29 cases, all health center residents, by the way, 11 off by Friday. Possibly, they're technically able to. Will it go down to 19 or to 20 to 18? Again, that's going to be yet to be determined, and then 13 more by next week. We have 22 staff members right now that are COVID positive. So we always think about the residents being positive. That's by far the most important because they're the most vulnerable group. Resident employees are younger. They're a little more, on average, healthier, so they recover quicker and they're back to work. But that's still a large amount of people that are out of work to not take care of people. So we have to improvise, make plans, and put together different task force and teams to make sure that happens. So we've struggled with that. We've not been short in any shape or form, but we've had to ask people to work some extra shifts and do things. And if you've ever worked in the healthcare industry, I know Gail Jens and Suggy Stiers and Susan Walton, all nurses will tell you that's part of the game. That's what you do. You work. A doctor's not on call to work 24 hours in an ER room. That's not ideal, but that's things you have to do sometimes to get by. And our staff has been amazing with doing that. So we're very thankful for them to pull together. And by Friday, we should have 11 staff members come off. And by the end of the weekend, they should all be off. Again, that's if they're feeling good and there's no symptoms, they come back. That's perfect scenario, but you should see those numbers dwindle pretty quick for those 22 people coming back. It looks big for a long time, and then you get a chunk come off and another chunk, and then eventually everybody comes off. So that is that with the chart. We'll have that up. Hope that explains it a little bit and puts it in more perspective exactly how it looks and where the numbers are coming from. The next thing I want to talk about is visitation and travel reminders. I put out something a couple of weeks, actually November 11th I have on here, telling everybody about two things that we've implemented moving forward due just to the rising cases in general. And that is if anyone stays overnight out of Springmore, you must quarantine for 14 days or provide a negative COVID test upon your return. So that is still in effect. If you go overnight to stay with family or for any reason you need to quarantine for 14 days or provide Joyce a positive COVID test after 3 days of you being back. You got to wait those 3 days to the incubation period, and then you get tested, and then maybe it's only 7 days that you're actually isolated. So that's still in effect. If you stay overnight and if you have to have an overnight guest for a special purpose, they have to provide us a COVID test no later than 48 hours upon their arrival. So we have to see that they have been tested negative within 48 hours. We are discouraging guests, period, except if there's a special situation. Again, we've had several residents as requested guests for surgery procedures, and I think that's fine. So I know that there's one resident coming up we've had to go ahead and implement that with. So again, that's going to go to Joyce. So anytime you're expecting to have an overnight guest, Joyce needs to know, because A, she's got to know we have a guest, and we should know you're having surgery too, and then B, she has to keep the actual form on site to make sure we have that test, so we can have proof that the visitor here staying here has a negative COVID test. So those are still in effect. That's the only thing that's changed. We are really discouraging guests at this time, any guest overnight, even for a visit, but we're not stopping them. So both of these are still in effect right now. The only other thing that we're stopping right now is I've heard some people concern, and it's very valid, that we had been offering this holiday catering package to really help people for the holidays, and it creates some discussion about creating more people in an area. We've only had two or three people sign up for it, and it can be for any time. You can actually sign up for it tonight and get it tomorrow. So it was designed for the holidays. It's going to stop after Thanksgiving anyway, and we're going to do something for Christmas. But we have suspended that now. Of course, we're going to honor the 2 or 3 people that's already ordered something, but we're not taking any more orders for the holiday catering package. So that's the only other thing that has changed. And right now, we don't plan to implement any other policies as far as restricting visitors or you leaving campus or anything like that. We're just strongly recommending that you do not travel and you do not have guests. Again, there's no stay-at-home order, so I can't I can't make you do that, nor could I ever make you do that. And y'all remember that from day one. I'd probably be a little more I'd be a little more tough on asking y'all not to leave if there's a stay-at-home order. That is not the case, and there's not a case where you can't have people visit in your home. So I can't stop that, and I'm not going to stop that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some recommendations. I'm going to read some surveys of what people are doing, and then I'm going to ask you to make the best decision you can based on all this information. So again, number one, first and foremost, we're not encouraging travel, and we're not encouraging guests. Okay? Can't stop it, but we're not encouraging it. So, from the CDC, there's a couple of things pertaining to visitors and the holidays. I want to read just 3 things that I thought were most important. And the first one is hosting or attending a gathering. The one that I think is we've got to remember to do. Guests should avoid direct contact, including handshakes and hugs with others not from their household. So, if your son or daughter comes over, I know it's so hard to want to hug them and kiss them. Please don't do that. Just for your sake and your neighbor's sake, just don't do it. Being able to see them is a blessing in itself during this time. So please avoid any direct contact with guests that are not in your household. The second one is overnight travel and overnight stays. We'll recommend wear mask while inside your house. I know that sounds crazy, but again, it's an extra layer of protection. Wear a mask while inside your house. Masks may be removed for eating, drinking, and sleeping, but individuals from different households should stay 6 feet apart from each other at all times. So if you do have guests over for Thanksgiving, please make sure you have your mask on. Please make sure your family members have their mask on. You know, just be conscious of that, and just make sure that happens, and staying 6 feet apart. That's so very important. And then the third one that really kind of hits home, and it's just something new I just hadn't really talked about before, but the weather's kind of nice. It's not too terribly cold, but it says improve ventilation by opening windows and doors or placing central heat and air on continuous circulation. So that just helps with the airflow in your apartment or your house or your villa. So those are just some quick little tips here from the CDC. There's a whole page full of them. CDC and state guidelines for Thanksgiving travel and gatherings, but these are all recommendations. Nothing really in here more than what I've already suggested. We do. Sometimes this gets into the weed with actual people not pertaining to a place like Springmore. But another interesting thing was a survey that was sent to all long-term care providers. And the providers, 81% responded that they are encouraging residents to stay home for Thanksgiving. So I'm encouraging that as well. So I'm a part of that. They didn't poll me. I've never been polled by anything. But anyway, they didn't ask me. But I would say I'm 82% of those people that are asking, residents to really consider staying home for the holidays. So we strongly suggest no guests or no travel. So that's a part of the survey. In another survey that was done by Leading Age, I think everybody knows who Leading Age is. That's have a state national organization that provides education, and they provide advocacy for us, and all kind of great things. And they helped on the sales tax issue, y'all remember a while back, and they just do a lot of stuff for staff. But they did a survey, and there were 4 questions I'm just going to go over real quick, and asking communities what they were doing in certain situations. And I thought this would be helpful for y'all to decide what y'all are going to do. So the first question is, what are you considering in terms of residents traveling for a family holiday or gathering? So they said there's a great risk of COVID exposure at family gatherings, especially those held indoors with marginal COVID protections, blending families from multiple households. So we talked about that earlier about marginal COVID protections. So you need to wear your mask, you need to stay 6 feet apart, and you don't need to have direct contact. So if you do that, you're above marginal, which is great. But blending multiple families and different households, that's where it gets tough. I'm going to talk about that more in a minute, but that was just something that they were concerned about. Somebody you hadn't seen in a long time or you don't see on a regular basis. Again, not surprisingly, the vast majority of respondents, 81%, were not encouraging travel. That came from another article. It came from this, but that did come up. So that question was, and these are not going to be in the recap memo. This is way too much stuff to put in here. I'm going to put the 3 recommendations that I just talked about a second ago, but this survey that Leading Age did with these 4 questions, this is just for y'all to hear and just for y'all to make, just to have some information to make decisions on. This is just, again, it's no more than reading an editorial and you know, thinking what you want to do with it, but I thought it was very, very informative. The second question is, if a resident leaves for a family Thanksgiving gathering, what are you recommending when they return? Well, we've already addressed that. We're recommending if you leave for Thanksgiving locally that you come back and you know, you don't have to do anything. But if you stay overnight, we're asking you, we're not asking you, we're requiring you to quarantine for 14 days. What they said is, they said survey members were considering or asking a combination of these 3 things: requiring residents to self-quarantine, which we're doing if you stay overnight, to disclose travel plans. I'm not going to invade in your private and ask where you're going for Thanksgiving. It's way too intrusive. And then third, to be tested for COVID upon return, which that is another option. If you come back to Springmore, you can quarantine for 14 days, or you can provide a negative COVID test. So we are doing what most people are suggesting they do. There's a combination of things. So we're right on track with question 2. Question 3, what are you planning in terms of residents and families getting together on your property for the holidays? So we've talked about that. So a couple of highlights in here. Nearly all said they will enforce existing visitor screenings and protocols. So all visitors should be signing in at the front desk. Had a long talk with Charles and Marlene and everyone else, that everybody that comes through, I've had people question about the self-screening. The self-screening is about as simple as you can get. You take your temperature, you fill out a form, you get a name tag, and you go on. What we got to make sure is that people are actually doing that. We all know the temperature is not a foolproof way to see if you have COVID, and anybody can answer the questions. I'm just going to be honest, and y'all know that. The whole idea is that that the guests are taking time to do that, and that we do have a track of who's in the building and where they're going. Also, I'm aware that that's not always going to work perfect, and people are going to come in back entrances. I ask y'all to please, please, please inform your family and friends to always check in at the front desk, always get your temperature screen, always get your tag, and then go to the closest entrance. I've had residents tell me before, I saw somebody without a name tag on. I need your help. I've got to help, y'all have got to help us police this. There's 485 residents, and I really need everybody to help with that. So we are still doing the screening process. That's all still going to be in place. That's working fine. They're not letting anybody go by if they're not screened, but we have to continue to do that. Just to talk a little bit about visitors, I took a tally of the visitors in North Village who's visited over the last week, and we average about 25 visitors a day. So if there's 240 units in South Village, that's about 10% of people visiting. It's not a very high amount. So are there people coming in entrance 3 I don't know about? I'm sure there are, and I hope that's not the case, and I hope that you call them out, and I hope that you tell your family and friends not to do that. But again, it's not a huge amount of people visiting right now from the sign-in books. Second, discouraging residents from inviting guests into their property, except for special situations. So again, we're discouraging residents not to have guests. But you know, we're not, so we can't mandate. I mean, I'm not mandating you can't have guests, and these other people within this survey, they're not doing it either. But for certain circumstances like surgery, yes, we are. Number 3, other solutions include encouraging residents to have a limited number of guests only in their home. That's right, you can only have up to 4 guests in your home. So we are doing exactly what most people are doing. 4 people. And number 4, we know that many members have been planning to offer residents the option to have a Thanksgiving meal delivered to their home, including a limited number of guest meals. So we would much rather, so we can't have guests in the dining room, so we can have meals delivered, and we can have guest meals. Again, We hope it won't be many, but that's a way to keep everybody in their unit. So nobody's out in a common area, nobody's in a dining room, and if it's nice, sit outside. That's the best way to do it. So it looks like people are limiting people in there, and they're having food delivered to their apartment, and even having guest meals there. So. Let's see, and then question 4. This is 4. What are you planning in terms of preparing staff for family holiday gatherings? So the staff is the same as the residents. We're recommending the same thing as we do. Again, we can't make them, but we're recommending them to do the same thing. And they said 72% of the people that responded are going to give staff members CDC information and advisories about travel, and we will do that as well. We go over that all the time, and we inform people of that. So as you see, the case numbers for staff are almost as high as the residents, so that's just as important. So we'll be implementing and asking those same things. So I've decided I'm not going to be around my large extended family for Thanksgiving, which was a hard decision. I called my mom the other night on the way home and said, we always go home and we rotate of going to the in-laws and then to my parents and vice versa for Christmas. But when we go home to my family the past few years, we go to my cousin's house. And when we go to my cousin's house, it's my grandparents and my 2 cousins and their kids and their husbands and sometimes their husband's mom or dad, because both of them they're single mothers and single dads of grandparents have passed away. I don't see those people often at all, maybe once or twice a year. So I told Mom I'm not getting around anybody or not gathering around people that that I don't normally see. So I'm not going to tell somebody to do something and then I go do it. I just consciously couldn't do that. Is my mom and dad going to come up here? I'll see them. I don't know yet. I see them on a regular basis, so I'd consider that within my group. They don't live in a small town and do much, but I'm not going to be at a large family gathering. There's just no way I can do that. So I'm going to let employees know that. I'm not asking y'all not to have Thanksgiving. I realize how important it is. Thanksgiving is by far my favorite holiday ever, and it's fantastic. And I still want to have Thanksgiving. It's just got to be a little different this year. But I also realize it may be somebody's last Thanksgiving, and I'm not going to be the person to say, you can't see a family member on Thanksgiving. I have no right or authority to do that. I'm just giving you important information for you to consider to make the best choice for you, your family, and Springmore. So that is all I have regarding that. Hopefully that was somewhat helpful. I do have a few little announcements I'll read, and I have a huge announcement I want to talk about, and then we'll take some questions here. Just a reminder for Thanksgiving, there's a little pamphlet here for dining services, important information regarding Thanksgiving. Of course, we know it's going to look different this year. North and South Village dining rooms, let me slow down, sorry. North and South Village dining rooms will be open for lunch on Thanksgiving Day with reservations from 11:30 to 1:30. There'll be lunch delivery for those that submit a delivery menu. Residents must, I reiterate, must have a reservation to have lunch in the dining rooms, whether weighted service or going through the line. So if you're going to be a weighted service or you're going to go through the tray line, you got to have a reservation. Takeouts do not need reservations. To make a reservation, just call 7094 or email the total number of your party and time to dining.services@springmore.org. For the Garden Cafe Grill and Bistro, breakfast will be served in the grill from 7:45 until 10:30, but they will not be open for lunch or dinners. They'll be assisting serving in the dining room. That's normally what we do on holidays. And then lastly, it goes, I think it's unsaid, we've talked about it 1,000 times, but a final reminder, guests are not permitted in any dining area under any circumstances. So remember, no visitors anywhere within Springmore, and that includes dining services. quick little reminder from Jennifer regarding that that to not show up early for your reservation for Thanksgiving. I know that a lot of times y'all want to show up early for things and kind of get the best seat or something of that nature. But if you have a reservation, there's no need to get there early. We got to try to keep people staggered and have them come in. So please be mindful of that. Again, you got to make a reservation, and regardless of delivery or takeout, if you're having guests. They must know in advance if you're going to have guest meals. We have to make sure we have enough food for everybody. I don't think it's going to be a lot, but again, if you are going to have somebody, again, make sure they know. They have to know in advance so they can be prepared. Some announcements for the chaplains. I won't get too deep into this because Holly will put this on here. Some of the reoccurring things: grief share at 3 p.m. That was Tuesday. Sorry about that. Hope that went well on Tuesday. Today at 7 p.m., Dementia Caregiver Support Group, 273A, and Third Wednesday Social Club, 7 p.m., South Village Terrace. What's the social club? Okay. Are you a part of that, Lori? Is it Christian Social Club or? Oh, I got you. So we can come socialize as others learn about. Okay, that's nice. All right. You agree, Holly? Good. All right. Holly agrees. All right. Connections, Thursday, 11/19, 383 West, North Village Dining Room. Vesper Sunday at 7. Chaplain Movie Matinee, The Two Popes. Movie's full. Can only have 10. Man, what a bummer. Thanksgiving service at 10:30 on 1341. That'd be really good. I always love the Thanksgiving service here. I hate we're not going to be able to gather here this year, but Lori comes to my town hall meeting every Wednesday once a month and sits in the back, so perhaps I'll just come to hers Thanksgiving service as well and just show up. That's the least I can do. And last but not least, on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, there's going to be a streaming of Celebration of Life for Mr. Judd Ammons at 2 p.m., and that's going to be on 1341. I think everybody knows Judd, passed away, I think it was last month, and he decided to hold off his Celebration of Life until Thanksgiving. He's got a large family and got grandkids actually all over the United States in college, and I think for them it's good to kind of let things kind of settle down, and then as everybody comes home for the holidays to have that memorial service. So they're going to do that at Greystone Baptist Church. It's a small private family gathering, which I think is nice for them. There would have been thousands upon thousands of people in this service if it would have been a normal time, which I can imagine is very overwhelming. But we're very thankful to be able to show that memorial service at 2 p.m. I think there's a link on the portal, Daniel. There's a link on the portal to watch it live, and then also it's going to be streamed on 1341 at 2 o'clock. So all you got to do is just turn on 1341, and you can watch that service. So, what a great way to kind of kick off the Thanksgiving holiday of just having a celebration of his life. We're also thankful for all he did for us and what he created and what his family continues to do for Springmore. And although it's very sad he's no longer with us, he's blessed us with so much. And it's a celebration of life. So let's celebrate Judd before Thanksgiving. What a perfect time to do that. Perhaps that's why that was planned. They're very smart people. So with all of that, I have some bittersweet news, but then I have some really amazing news at the end. I had planned to have this individual here with me, but she is gung-ho doing an interview right now and just really making things happen. The bittersweet news is that our director of nursing, Leslie Smith, will be leaving us next week. Leslie has been here going on 6 years. I don't know if y'all know her or not. A lot of times the residents don't know the staff in the health center unless you are maybe there for a short stay or if you have a spouse there. But Leslie is an absolutely amazing individual and probably the strongest director of nursing that I've ever worked with. She was very professional. She was very calm. She was just everything you want in a DON. She's phenomenal. And sometimes when those things are so great, other people notice those talents and they approach them and can provide them maybe something better than what they're currently at. So Leslie, as happy as she was here, she accepted, was recruited by somebody and accepted an amazing job offer outside around Norfolk, Virginia, to be the DON of another CCRC. It's a hospital chain there on the coast of Virginia or Norfolk that has about 10 hospitals, and there are some CCRCs and nursing homes that's affiliated with those. And she has been chosen to run the large retirement community like Springmore here, this hospital system here in Norfolk, Virginia. So she'll actually be a hospital employee. She has an extensive background on Medicare and Medicaid. She was the director of nursing at Rex Rehab before this. So she just made a good fit for that. She really has no ties to Raleigh. There's nothing really holding her here. Her family is actually back in Canada, so she'll be a little bit closer. And again, she's pretty young and she's got a while to work. So we wish her the best. I hated to hear her leave and hated that she's going, but I'm so very happy for her. Anytime somebody can go and better themselves, I shake their hand and say congratulations and just move forward. That was pretty shocking knowing we were going through all this, but being the professional Leslie is, she gave us a very extensive notice, and we've been working through that and coming up with things. And we have a very exciting announcement to make. And again, I was going to have this person here, but we have named Debbie Savinsky our interim director of nursing. I think everybody probably knows Debbie Savinsky. Debbie has been here for 22 years. She's kind of like a Beth Holden. She's like a career person here at Springmore. I mean, Debbie is just amazing. She's only a few years older than me, so she's worked here her entire career pretty much, 22 years, and she has been a nurse supervisor. She's ran supportive living before. She's been the head nurse in the clinic, and I can't think of anybody better to take over for Leslie than Debbie. If y'all know Debbie, y'all know she is one of the most liked people here at Springmore. I jokingly say that Daniel and Rashad are probably the two most liked people at Springmore because I see them more. But Debbie Savinsky, I've never heard people rave more about her. I've never had an announcement of where somebody's getting promoted and the whole staff claps. And then we go to the health center, the same thing. Never had my boss call and say, hey, I heard Debbie's interested. She's amazing. Dr. Edmondson call and saying, hey, Debbie's interested. She's amazing. So we have been very blessed to have Debbie step into this role. The hope is that will be permanent. We are still doing our due diligence and going to interview people if something comes across and we find somebody that we think is just a better fit for Springmore. But we like to promote from within if all possible. And to be honest, I never thought about Debbie because I always focus on the health center, but to have her wealth of knowledge and just the person that she is lead the nursing staff, it has just been overwhelmingly positive. The nurses all came in, supported her, all went to Carrie and said, this is who we need, this is who we want, and she has jumped right in and just handling everything. Again, she's interviewing right now for somebody, so she's full steam ahead. The only bad thing is she won't be in the clinic, hopefully, but we can refill that position. But she's much more needed in the health center, and what an amazing career advancement for her. I mean, she's the top nurse here at Springmore. I mean, she's reached it, and she loves Springmore. Doesn't ever want to leave, like me. She's got a while to work like me, so I look forward to working with her for a long time, and I think this is going to be fantastic. So I was really excited to share that news with y'all in closing. Again, very going to miss Leslie, and she did a phenomenal job, but I'm beyond blessed by the best to have Debbie step into that role. So that was a good 43 minutes of me rambling. That actually wasn't rambling. That was good information, I think. I hope you think it was good information. I'm super thirsty now, but maybe one of my hairdressers could get me some water, but I'm kidding. But if y'all want to take any calls, I'll be happy to do so. 7054. Oh, goodness. I try to cover as much stuff as possible, but I'm sure there's something out there you guys want to know, and I'll be happy to answer as much as possible. And then, again, we'll get this recap memo out to y'all as soon as possible. It may be tomorrow. It may be Friday. Probably not. Holly's saying no, so that it probably won't be. It is a lot of stuff, so just bear with us here. And also, your families will get a copy of this. And, of course, the health center families will get it, and all the employees get it. So everybody's on the same page. That's right. Yep, we got to mail's back on track now, and it takes a while to print. And then we want the print copy and the electronic copy to go out roughly the same time. So, yes, sir. So the question is, if someone is properly screened, can they help a resident move Christmas decoration to their apartment from the storage unit? Anything from storage. That is fine. That is not a common area. I would make sure that I had to think about that for a second. That's not a common area, so I would make sure that there's nobody else in that storage unit. I know there's a unit, you go in the door and there's multiple units in there, so that, yes, I understand that if somebody walks in, that they should be close to your apartment. If you go straight to your apartment, to your storage unit, no other residents in there, and you move stuff in or out, that's fine, but no common areas. That's not considered a common area. I had to think about that one. It's a good question. Just a lot of these are common sense, and that's not a common sense. I had to think about that, but just again, that's a great question. It's just not, just sitting in the lounge. Let's go to the bistro and grab a Coke. Those are the glaring things. But yeah, you're fine with that. Great question. Yeah. That's a good question. So if you meet a visitor outside, does a visitor have to be screened? No, they do not. We were doing outdoor visits before we allowed people to come in, and we weren't doing any screening. Outdoor visits are preferably, suggested by far over anything, but no, they do not have to be screened. If you're going outside to visit with that person, no, they are not to be screened. Good question. Okay, so the question is Margot, who is our infection control nurse, still with us? She is not still with us. Margot resigned. We actually, who we're interviewing right now for the position for staff development coordinator. Margot was awesome, and she was absolutely amazing. She came into the worst possible situation I could ever imagine in my entire life. And for 9 months, she has had the worst job of anybody I can imagine. When you hear stories about healthcare professionals, especially frontline professionals getting burned out and leaving, that is Margot. Margot is done with nursing. Margot ain't coming back to be a nurse. She is going to do something completely different. I'm only telling you this because I know her, and I know she wouldn't mind me telling y'all. She is flat burned out. And she's probably going to do something like retail management. So she was an amazing lady. I don't fault her at all. I do not know how she stood it this long. I have been blessed by more than I can imagine to have Margot here during this time. She got us where we need to be. So, but no, she is no longer here. And again, that's nothing of anything bad. She's just completely burned out. She's not going to Rex Rehab or to Duke Hospital to make more money. She's done with nursing, period. Completely done. The good news with that is, as I said, we're interviewing for that position right now for someone who oversees a very large nursing home here in the state that has extensive knowledge and background with that. And the even better news is Alice Carter, if y'all remember her, who'd been at Springmore for well over 20 years, she recently retired and spend more time with her husband who retired. She is going to come back and work part-time and do Margot's job. So we've got that covered. Margot was doing completely reports at this time. When I talk about this little graph here taking an astronomical amount of time to get, it's because you have to do 14 other reports before you get to this report. So Margot was completely slammed doing reports, and she never got to do what she signed up to do, which is staff development, which is train nurses. So Alice Carter will be doing the nurses. We'll be doing the reports, moving forward. And then we will get somebody else on board. And then one day when things are back to normal, we will get back to a regular staff developer who actually educates and helps nurses with advancing their career. So anyway, yes, sir. Sure. So the question is, discouraging visitors, but can have up to 4. You're allowed to have up to 4 people, but we're discouraging you to strongly think about not having it. I discourage people from smoking, but you can smoke in a smoking area. We've decided not to ban visitors during Thanksgiving. So yes, you can have them. We're just suggesting that you think about not having them. If you do have them, you can have up to 4. I know that may sound contradictory, but it's your choice. We're just saying don't have them like I would say somebody not smoke, but if you want to smoke, go to the smoking area. If you want to have guests, you can have 4. That's a great question. So the question is, what's the protocol if staff leaves country and comes back? They would be quarantined for 14 days. We have a lot of staff from different countries, so if they're flying to another country, they'll be quarantined. That's good. We had that question a lot early on, and so yeah, that's what happened. Sure, yeah. So the question is, can I give a definition of what I consider common areas for not having guests? To make it as easy as possible, anywhere that's not your apartment. That's as simple as I can make it. I mean, I realize they got to walk down the hall. I realize they got to go to your apartment, but anything other than that is a common area. Yes, I did say somebody could go to their storage unit to help their mom or dad or whoever get some Christmas decorations, but that's anything not your apartment. So exercise room, bistro, cafe, dining room, great room, lobby, 273A, Ammons room, mail room, computer room, bank, anywhere except for your apartment. And that's just the easiest way I think to do it. It's just anywhere it's not your apartment. Can I give a progress report on the performance of the new chef? I think the new chef's doing fantastic. I eat here every day. I had steak yesterday. I had shrimp macaroni. I think it's shrimp macaroni and cheese, maybe lobster macaroni and cheese and carrots. It was fantastic. I had some chocolate cake. The day before that, well, steak's always good. The day before that, what did I have? God, I can't recall. I don't know what day it is. But no, I think the chef's doing fantastic. Again, I've not been eating in the dining room. I started seeing my little area. But me personally, I think it's fantastic. I think the presentation's much better. I think the flavor's better. I think the quality's better. Again, that's my opinion. Everybody's going to have their opinion, but yeah, I think he's doing fantastic. I think you can see what he can do. He can do more, and I think he's doing a very good job. I think he's doing a very good job. He's not been able to be front and center as much as he had with all these restrictions, but I think from his creativity and his mind of what he did with the autumn soiree and what we're going to be doing at Christmas at Springmore this year, which is not going to be a normal Christmas at Springmore. We'll talk about that another time, and all the events that he's done and the ideas he has, and I think just the food that we've had. I mean, I've had a lot of positive feedback. I know we always hear the negative stuff more vocal than the positive, and that's human nature. But I think he's personally doing very well. All right, guys. Anything else? Any other questions? That's it. I think I was talking to my staff in here. I always say that before we leave stand up, don't we? Good Lord. Whew, God, I see 3 people sitting in here, and I think I'm in a stand-up meeting again. That was at 8 o'clock, right? Whew. All right, well, we're going to go jump on this recap memo and get this to y'all. Again, I hope everybody has an awesome Thanksgiving. It is, like I've always said, we've tried to do a very fine job of trying to balance y'all having a home and keeping everybody safe. So, again, I can provide the information and I can control certain things, but there are certain things I can't control and that y'all have to decide on your own. So we're all kind of in this together and making sure that families are following the same rules and guests are following the same rules and y'all are following the same rules. And this will hopefully be over. But you guys are doing amazing. I mean, y'all had 0 cases. And I know the whole point is, well, we don't want to have cases. I don't either. I do not either. And a lot of times I think when we see these numbers on this health center, it scares people, and I understand that. But those are 2 totally separate worlds. And I tried to explain that early on. I won't rehash that. But just keep doing what you're doing. It's proven very successful. And we pray it continues. So with that, happy Thanksgiving. God bless. And we'll see you guys next month. Thanks so much.